Let the word go forth.
Fool me once.
Are you fired up?
I'm not a crook.
Are you ready to go?
Shame on you.
It's Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, hosted by Ben Kissel.
Fool me, we can't get fooled again.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the show. That's a song. Hey, what's up, everyone? I am Ben. That's Marcus.
Hey, Ben.
How are you, Marcus Parks?
I'm okay. How about you?
I'm good, buddy. We got a Christmas tree yesterday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're in the Christmas spirit. Pretty cool.
Yeah, so we got a Christmas tree, too.
Yesterday you did that?
A few days ago.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of nice to have a Christmas tree.
It's really good. The smell of pine.
Mm-hmm.
The extreme fire hazards.
Oh, yeah, we saw that on the last stream on the left. Thank you all for watching the last stream on the left this year. That was our final installment for 2018. But, of course, we'll be back in 2019. I did show a fire hazard video, and those Christmas trees light up.
Yeah, they do.
In more ways than one. Be careful. Don't let Grandpa smoke cigars too close to it. We learned what happened there. Okay, and watch out for squirrels. That's why I had to shake the tree out to make sure there's no squirrels in it. Having fun playing with nuts. All right. Well, we got a bunch of stuff to get to today. It's another crazy week. We don't quite know if the government will be shut down throughout Christmas. We don't know what exactly is going to happen. By the time of this recording, the budget has not been agreed upon quite yet. Donald Trump is holding out hopes. He wants a Christmas gift. What's his Christmas gift going to be? A wall. What psycho? I want a wall for Christmas. Well, Donald Trump. That's the gift that keeps on giving, I guess. Or taking, really, in many ways. Donald Trump wants $5 billion for the wall in the spending bill, but they said they're not going to give it to him. Let's remember back in the day when he signed the omnibus bill. The omnibus bill had no funding for the wall, and Ann Coulter was livid, and she was mean to him on Twitter. And this is actually true because he might not get the wall funding once again, hence the looming government shutdown. Ann Coulter was negative to him on Twitter, and Donald Trump, you know what he did? Unfollowed her.
He unfollowed her.
Can you believe that? Anyway, is this page 7? Are we doing Riverdale Roundup? No, the president just unfollowed a pundit. What do you call that when it's not a backstab? It's not quite totally transparent. A subtweet. Or something like that.
Yeah.
Passive aggressive.
Very
passive aggressive. Because
side eye.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, Donald Trump was sitting there in his boxers. She's like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to unfollow.
Yeah.
And then he felt great doing it. Anyway,
it's his new negotiating technique, the great deal maker, and that's what he said. He's going to have the best deals. He's going to treat it like a business.
Right.
And his new negotiating technique with Congress is, I don't wanna.
He doesn't wanna.
Yeah.
All right, but we'll see what happens. Interestingly enough, again, as I was talking about the omnibus bill, he said he'll never let it happen again. Never again will I sign a bill like that. It was full of the pork, to say the least. We're going to talk about the $600 million that bill gave to the United States military. We're going to talk here in a second about what happened with Donald Trump and Syria. This coming via tweet, which is absolutely crazy. He wants to take troops out of Syria, but I want to have a debate with Marcus about it because, again, remove the name, remove the face, remove the character of the president, just the policy itself. I want to talk about that idea. Is it time for our troops to get out of Syria? So when it comes to the budget right now, the omnibus bill, he said he's never going to sign anything like that. Ironically enough, in July of this year, more moderate Republicans, they put forward a spending bill that actually had $25 billion for border security, but it also had this little thing called compassion. So it did not pass, and Donald Trump wouldn't even look at it. Of course, the compassionate component of this spending bill was that it was going to deal with dreamers, deal with DACA recipients in a much more Obama-like way when it comes to actually getting them a path to citizenship. But because that was in the bill, that was the poison pill in the bill. So they didn't get $25 billion for a wall because they refused to negotiate whatsoever on DACA recipients, aka dreamers. So now we're getting towards the end of the year here, and we don't know what's going to happen. I really hope the Congress can get home for the holidays.
Oh, I hope so.
My God. It's the only thing that would make me happy is if they had to stay.
Yeah.
But then, of course, if the government shuts down, they're off scot-free, and the people who that would really hurt is all the civil service workers out there who just won't get paid during the holiday season. Who needs money on vacation?
Yeah, right.
You know, that's when you want to
money right before Christmas.
Absolutely, no one needs it. So
That's what. That's just another thing about like just kind of the casual cruelty of this administration, and that's just such a weird casual thing, and it also kind of shows you just how out of touch these people are because they don't realize how many Americans, and civil servants
they have to know.
I mean, I don't think they do. I don't think they have a concept of what paycheck to paycheck really means.
Right.
Especially around the holiday season, like they have no concept of it. They don't think about it. It's not something that enters into their decision-making process in any way whatsoever. They just don't care. It's not that they don't care. It's worse than that. It's that it never even crosses their mind.
And certainly, I just read a great article about the shrinking of the middle class. And what is the middle class now? Is it shrinking? We haven't even really defined what it is. But regardless of how you define the middle class, there is no denying it's smaller than ever before. And that's an indicator of what Marcus was saying regarding where are their minds? Where are their minds at? The people who are running the country, the people in charge, they're not thinking about the everyday people who, as Marcus just mentioned, are living paycheck to paycheck. So we will see what happens with that. And I'm assuming today's been really crazy. There are some people who say they got the votes all of a sudden to pass the bill, and then others are like, no, we're going to put we found the $5 billion. We don't have the $5 billion. So anyway, that'll be concluded at some point. Yeah. I want to talk about some positive news, though. This is, speaking of gifts, this is positive news. And again, get rid of, just think about the policy and not the person who will end up signing this legislation. But the aforementioned, I've talked about this a couple of times now, this criminal justice reform bill, it's really been championed by Jared Kushner and Cory Booker, of course, Cory Booker out of New Jersey. He's probably going to run for president, I think, with the Democratic Party, of course. He said this regarding Jared Kushner and this criminal justice reform bill. He says, I don't think this would have happened without him, which is high praise coming from someone who's a political opponent, to say the least. He goes on to say, this is going to have a profound effect on thousands of families who have been suffering as a result of this broken system. So it passed the House, it passed the Senate. It's now on the desk of Donald Trump, who will be signing it. Again, Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, real close to the president. So this legislation, as we talked about before, but this legislation would give federal judges more discretion when sentencing some drug offenders and boost prisoner rehabilitation efforts. It would reduce life sentences for some drug offenders with 3 convictions. Of course, that would be, they got the life sentence after 3 convictions, and that, of course, is the 3 strikes and you're outlaw, which is great rule for baseball, horrible rule for criminal justice. And of course, that came from Bill Clinton. So they're going to reduce those life sentences to 25 years. Another provision would allow about 2,600 federal prisoners sentenced for crack cocaine offenses before August of 2010 the opportunity to petition for a reduced penalty. So this show and you know us with Last Podcast on the Left and how much we are champions of criminal justice reform. This was a bipartisan bill, and as I've talked about in the past, it should be, because both parties are complicit in the problems that we have in our criminal justice system. But this is a nice piece of legislation, and it's good to hear some positive news, specifically around all the amidst all the negativity that surrounds this White House. So that's a good thing, and I'm extremely happy that will be signed by Donald John Trump with his strange, bizarre little signature.
I mean, there's that guy's signature is so weird. There's got to be something good to come out of all this. It can't just be it can't just be 4 years of horror.
No.
There's got to be something good, and hey, good on him for coming up with something good.
Jared Kushner has actually really been concerned about criminal justice for a long time. I just watched Michael Moore's documentary, air quotes, movie Fahrenheit 11/9, which Marcus and I are trying. By the way, this is one of Michael Moore's best.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge. I liked Roger and Me is legitimately incredible.
Roger and Me is a great documentary.
That's before Michael Moore had all the money and I don't know, just kind of started sucking Hollywood's bizarre toes and just became a celebrity version of himself. You know, kind of lost his soul along the way, I think. But this last movie, 11/9, which Marcus and I are trying to figure out, of course, Fahrenheit 9/11, that's based on 9/11, but 11/9. Now Donald Trump was elected November 8th.
The election was on November 8th, but it was after midnight when the official concession came,
so
making it technically 11/9.
So he's going on East Coast time. Is that it?
No. It technically happened on 11/9. So, okay, like let's say
I think he's stretching it a little bit. He's got some pizza dough. He's stretching that a little bit.
I don't know if let's say tonight, who's gonna die? Pick someone to die.
Oh my God! Honestly, I hate to say this, Artie Lang. I saw a picture of him. I don't know what happened to his face. I just saw a more recent picture of his nose. It looked better a month ago, and it looked like the worst thing I ever saw. A month ago.
Yeah.
So you can imagine. So I'm going to say Artie Lang, and that's probably going to happen.
All right. So say he dies at 1 a.m. tonight.
Sure.
His death certificate is going to say 12/21.
Yes, but he died the night of
12/20. Death certificate.
Death certificate. And in some ways, that's an apropos analogy. So nonetheless, in this documentary, they were talking about Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner and Michael Moore kind of knew each other for a while. I also didn't realize that Steve Bannon worked on distributing the movie, which was kind of, I mean, he came clean on all this stuff, so it was interesting. But anyway, this was something, criminal justice reform has been something on Jared Kushner's mind for a long time. So all the there are a lot of negatives, and we all know those, but this is a positive story. And it was also an interesting thing that I didn't realize regarding Barack Obama in Fahrenheit 11/9. In Flint, Michigan, of course, this is where Rick Schneider, their governor, he's a criminal.
Yeah.
What they did to the people of Flint when they rerouted their water into they just basically got it into a new, they had a perfect, clean, clear water, and then they put it into a different water source that was extremely polluted, all for business gain, financial gain. With zero, they didn't even tell the people that they were going to be doing this.
Yeah.
They just did it. And Obama went down there, and he did this whole thing where he sided with Schneider and was like, hey, give me a glass of water. When he was on stage speaking at Flint, he's like, give me a glass of water. I'm going to try it. And then he touches his lips to it, doesn't take a sip. He's like, yeah, this is pretty good water. And everyone's like, we're dying, sir. You know, they have extreme levels of lead in their blood, and that lasts forever. And that's generational also. They say you can tell if a grandmother had high levels of lead in her grandchildren, you'll be able to see it.
Wow.
So that stuff is really huge. So it was just a good reminder that we've never had a perfect administration by any stretch of the imagination. And how do we get here? Well, that was one of the areas where the African American vote was suppressed because of what they felt to be a betrayal by Obama for siding with that horrible piece of crap governor of theirs who literally is poisoning people. I also didn't realize they were doing military training, urban military training in Michigan because it's so devastated and no one is there. So they just they got a bunch of tanks down there and they were doing full operations, and people are like, why is is this Red Dawn? What the hell is happening? But it was quite fascinating. So it's good to see criminal justice reform happen, and that makes me very happy. All right, well, let's get to some different news here. Let's talk a little bit about, let's do the border, and then we'll come back and talk about Syria. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Now, Kirstjen Nielsen, she is the head of the Department of Homeland Security. This week, she said that the U.S. has secured an agreement with Mexico so that immigrants claiming asylum will be returned to Mexico as their cases are processed, a bid to end the practice known as catch and release. So this is a really interesting policy here. Usually, this would happen if, let's just say, some Canadian wanted to come and seek asylum in the United States. They would say, stay in Canada until you're approved, and then you can dip on down there, vice versa for Mexico. But the people crossing over in the caravan, they're from Honduras, They are from
Ecuador.
Ecuador. They are not actually from Mexico.
Yeah.
So now you have they're foreigners in a foreign land, no matter what. And so now you have Mexico saying, well, I guess we can house them for a little while before inevitably ending up deporting the vast majority of them, because the U.S. has just changed our policy regarding asylum seekers and what do you have to say in order to qualify for asylum. It used to be that you could say there's a bunch of gang wars going on. My family has been murdered, or members of my family have been murdered, and I'm scared if I go back, I'm going to die. That used to be like, okay, you probably need some asylum.
Yeah.
That's no longer valid. They used to be able to say if you were in a domestic relationship that was exceptionally brutal, abusive, you could stay. You could seek asylum and you would be granted that. Now, recent changes have really put the screws to them, because they're saying that no longer qualifies and you can't come into this country based on the fact that if you go back to Honduras or Ecuador, you're going to be murdered. That if that doesn't allow you to seek asylum, I don't know what the hell else does. Maybe they should just come over and say, I want to start a Chick-fil-A franchise. And then they'd be like, you have asylum, sir. Come on in. Hey there, Ben Kissel for Robinhood. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free. Robinhood wants to make financial services work for everyone, not just the wealthy. Robinhood knows the stock market can be stressful for newcomers, so they designed a service that makes it easy to invest with true confidence. I'm new to the stock market. Robinhood gave me some stocks to try out their easy and intuitive app and web platform. All the info you need, charts, analysis, ratings, and market data are presented in a super easy way to understand. I especially liked their stock collections, like 100 most popular, sectors like entertainment, or curated categories like female CEOs, which helped me find companies I wanted to invest in. Discover new stocks and track favorite companies with a personalized newsfeed, and get analyst ratings of buy, hold, sell for every stock. And with Robinhood, I was able to learn how to invest as I built my portfolio. I especially loved the custom notifications for price movements, and you can place a trade in just 4 taps on your smartphone, so you'll never miss the right moment to invest. Robinhood is giving listeners a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help build your portfolio. Sign up at tophat.robinhood.com. That's tophat.robinhood.com. But the fact of the matter is, with the caravan, we know what's going on in these countries. We know the drug war is extremely real. We know these people aren't making it up, because I'm going to tell you this. It's a hell of an elaborate lie.
Yeah.
We're going to travel for 30 days. Get this. The punchline is, we're going to tell them there's violence here in this paradise. It's just like, think about it.
Yeah.
Of course they are in desperate need of asylum. This isn't some massive ruse. This isn't some, Johnny Knoxville-like stunt. This isn't Sacha Baron Cohen is not every single one of them. Although I'm sure there are some conspiracy websites that think Sacha Baron Cohen is like the head of it or something.
I'm sure.
So this is really brutal from the administration. So Nielsen made the announcement this past Thursday at a House Judiciary Committee hearing, telling the committee that the goal is to crack down on migrants falsely claiming asylum, only to be released into the U.S. and escape off the radar of immigration officials. This is what she said. She said, but by the time the courts have issued their orders, most of these illegal aliens, and again, I hate that term, illegal aliens, they are human beings, have vanished within our country for good. Oh, they vanished into our country for good, she said. They have escaped the law, undermined the system, and made it harder for us to actually help real asylum seekers by flooding the system with false claims. So basically, they're doing this under the guise of they're rejecting everybody. They're rejecting people who come from abusive backgrounds, who need to be in this country for personal safety, to really help out the people who really need it, who don't seem to exist.
Yeah.
So it's just total nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. And this is going to be the biggest issue of 2019. Immigration is going to be tops. And that's why Beto O'Rourke, I think he's got a real shot. if you look at the recent polling, I want to talk a little bit about recent polling that's been done now in Iowa. The three big names, it's three big Bs, big baller brand. We got Biden, Beto, and Bernie. They ranked 1, 2, 3 in a recent Iowa poll. Biden was around 33%. But now, of course, Biden, when it comes to immigration, Obama has some blood on his hands, too. His legacy wasn't great. There was a lot of immigration advocates who thought he was entirely too hawkish, entirely too brutal, and entirely too conservative-leaning on the issue of immigration. So Beto, he has made Dreamers one of his number one issues, and he has made immigration his number one issue. He was just at the border this past week. Of course, being from Texas, I think you know, Marcus, you got a special kind of relationship with immigration and understanding what it's like to be on the border. So we have Donald Trump.
I mean, I was 10 hours away from the border.
10 hours, but if you're closer than I was in Wisconsin.
Very much so.
And Texas has a real integrated, Hispanic community.
Yes, we had a lot of kids. We had a lot of kids coming into our school. Like some of the smaller ones, some of the younger ones, like that did not speak English when they first got there. They learned very quickly. But we had plenty of people in our town who, and plenty of people that I grew up with,
jealous.
Whose parents were, first generation immigrants.
I'm just so jealous because I would love to be bilingual.
Yeah.
It's a superpower.
Yeah, it really is.
My dad knows German. That ain't doing me any favors.
Yeah,
but we
Carolina's bilingual. It comes in handy quite a bit.
It does. We were actually looking for a new studio for our for our recordings, for our little podcasting, and the man that we were speaking with only spoke Spanish. Carolina came. It was just phenomenal.
Saved the day.
Saved the day. Being bilingual is awesome. So Beto, he is going to be able to outflank Biden on the left when it comes to immigration. And when it comes to going against Donald Trump, I think that his message, reasonable, compassionate policies, it's going to be good. It's going to be big. And Beto, again, being a Texas guy, he knows how to deal with it. He knows how to talk the immigration talk. He knows the people who are on the front lines of it. And he has seen what building a wall will and won't do. So I think that he has a real shot if the main focus is indeed immigration. And I think it will be, because that's Donald Trump's base, his bread and butter, and that sort of has made it the bread and butter, or the foundation for political campaigns for Democrats as well.
I think Donald Trump started the whole thing with immigration. That was the very first thing that he mentioned when he was running for president.
Boom.
And it seems like it's the only part of his message that actually works. Because when you see
I'll tell you this, it's definitely the part of the message that if he doesn't do it, he loses Sean Hannity.
Yeah.
He loses Limbaugh. So he's scared shitless.
I don't think he'll ever lose Sean Hannity.
No, he did. Sean Hannity came out. He's like, if he doesn't get the wall, like these conservative immigration, from a conservative perspective, they are real fickle.
Yeah.
They are real fickle about it.
Tucker Carlson fucking went 180 on him. Like,
he'll lose those people. And that so that's why this issue, like, for him, he is scared shitless to mess up on immigration.
Yeah.
Because there's some racial stuff in there, obviously. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, and but with his base, I think it's a big sticking point for what actually works. And because with the general population, when you look at the types of things that Donald Trump tries to bulldoze through, like Russia, Robert Mueller, when he tries to bulldoze through that stuff, it's not sticking. When you look at the polls for the majority population, they believe that he's been lying about a lot of stuff. They believe that he does have some connections to Russia, but with immigration, it seems like something that he can just kind of steamroll. He can get people behind him, and he can always bring it back to that. No matter you can have all this Mueller stuff and all this Russia stuff over there, but he can call that a witch hunt. He can yell about Democrats and all that, but he can always bring it back to immigration. He's still got this shiny little ball that he can dangle above everybody's head like they're, fucking a couple of curious cats.
Absolutely, and it's a double-edged sword again, because it's also igniting a lot of fire underneath more left-leaning people, or not even necessarily politically always left-leaning, but when it comes to immigration, they want more compassionate policies, and they want dreamers to feel what would you say? What would you say with the Dreamers?
They want Dreamers to.
They want Dreamers to get what they deserve. They want Dreamers to, they did everything right. They signed up with the government, they deserve, to live not having to fear being deported at some random night.
They deserve to be treated fairly.
Absolutely.
And I think the majority of Americans do have compassion, and they do want to see people being treated fairly. I think a lot of people, there are some people in this country that are definitely of the opinion of, fuck you, I got mine. But there are also a very large amount of Americans who want to see others treated fairly.
Absolutely.
Because they don't want to, because they see that person being treated unfairly, and they don't want to be treated like that. At the very least, because that also requires empathy, that requires compassion.
Well, of course, and then of course it's always, it makes you feel good when you're not the one getting crapped all over. Well, that's at least I'm doing better than
at least
somebody
I'm doing
else
better than that guy. So, but this country still has a fair amount of people who think like that.
Absolutely,
who have that mindset, and will always have that mindset.
So immigration is going to be a big winner, in my personal opinion. It's been a big winner for Donald Trump in the past, and I think it's going to be a big winner for the Democratic Party in 2019 if handled right.
Yeah,
and I think Beto is really on the. He's got the finger on the pulse, and I'm just very excited to see what goes on. So,
if a man can turn Lubbock blue, then a man can win the presidency.
That's right. I've said that 1,000 times. All right. Well, Marcus mentioned Russia. Donald Trump has okayed more Russian sanctions. The Trump administration announced new sanctions against Russian agents and companies. This was this week. They're punishing Moscow. This is for, quote, its continued disregard for international norms. The move was intended to smack Russia for cyber attacks interfering in 2016. Among those sanctions were 9 main intelligence directories, or GRU officers, their direct involvement in efforts to interfere in the 2016 election. So we got some more sanctions going against Russia. Donald Trump has said, okay, he'll do that. Now, we also have to talk about Syria. So it looks like the U.S., we got more sanctions against Russia, but now the withdrawal of troops from Syria, of course, they're in there, they're fighting ISIS. Remember ISIS? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're still around. And they are saying this withdrawal, if it actually does happen, who knows if it's actually going to go through. Right now, it was just a tweet, a presidential statement via Twitter, which makes me nauseous. It might not actually come to fruition. Yeah. They might end up staying there.
This has happened so many times when he tweets something and nothing happens.
Sure. The military-industrial complex is no joke. They got all the cash, and they have a lot of frickin' power. Now, this is what I want to talk about with Marcus Parks. Marcus Parks and Ben Kissel are going to be talking here. MSNBC, you're watching it.
I'm not watching.
No, I'm watching it. Right? I'm sitting there. I'm by my Christmas tree. I got my nog. I had eggnog one time this year.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It's terrible.
Yeah. I am not necessarily against if this is done intelligently. If that's a big if, capital IF. If it's done intelligently, I am not necessarily against ceding power to Syria, to Iran, and of course, inevitably, Russia would also have a little bit more power in Syria. How long can this go on? How long can we be there? Why are we still there? Obviously, the argument against pulling out is we're fighting ISIS on their own turf. If we don't fight them in Syria, we're going to fight them at home. I don't give a lot of credence to that. They're not here now. They're not. I mean, even if they are, we find them. It's really there's not going to be some invasion of ISIS fighters if we pull out of Syria. I just don't see that. I know a lot of the military experts say that is a possibility. I personally believe you build more animosity, you create more ISIS fighters. Every time a bomb explodes, destroys a family, maybe some collateral damage, somebody that's innocent. As we know, specifically with Trump's drone strikes, Obama's were horrendous, and Trump is even worse because he gave a lot more leeway.
Doesn't care.
Well, yeah, the policy literally is just...
I think he likes it.
Whatever he likes.
I know he likes it because he said he likes it when he said that he will go after the families of terrorists
and bomb the shit out of them. All this stuff.
Yes, we know that for a fact.
To me, that breeds terrorism. Breeds terrorists. Every time somebody sees a bomb and it says "Made in the USA" and they're holding their grandfather or child or sister or brother, they immediately hate the United States of America.
Yeah.
Because that, of course, is the tool of destruction, or the instrument of, that's who's creating these instruments of destruction. So it's interesting to see MSNBC and Fox News is against it as well. But as soon as like the GOP is super pissed off, and as soon as like Lindsey Graham is really mad at Donald Trump, I don't necessarily think I disagree with it, because I never agreed with Lindsey Graham on foreign policy ever. So I'm like kind of conflicted here. And again, the big if is, can it be done intelligently? But I don't know, because it doesn't seem like the military is really on board. And of course, Donald Trump, really, there's no love lost. It's the strangest thing we've ever had, a commander-in-chief who kind of hates the entire system that he's governing over. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't know.
It's very, well, I mean, that's part of the problem of contrarian politics, and I'm definitely guilty of this as well. When you say, like, well, Lindsey Graham hates it, that means I probably like it. But that's not necessarily true.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, and, and of course that happens with, Trump, and what we were talking about earlier with the criminal justice reform. Just because somebody you disagree with the majority of the time likes it doesn't mean that you should necessarily hate it. But on the other hand, when Putin comes out and praises it as a good decision, and note that he said Donald when he was talking about Donald Trump. He did not say President Trump. He said Donald, which is a nice little that's passive aggressive as well. That's a nice passive aggressive mood to place him below Vladimir Putin. But I'm not really sure about. I'm not sure if this is the right decision or not, because I'm not extremely well versed in what's going on in Syria right now. But I will say,
the question is,
I will say, just because we leave, like, it doesn't seem like, because I know a couple weeks ago it was declared that we destroyed the last stronghold, the last ISIS stronghold in Syria. But life isn't necessarily like a video game where you beat the last level and then end credits roll.
Although I do think the end of life will just end with a bunch of Asian names scrolling up and down the screen, which I think is wonderful.
Yeah, that's how it's going to end.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, so I mean, it's us getting out of there immediately. I mean, after you defeat these people, I mean, there's a lot of cleanup to be done, and because after the victory, you would think that's when hearts and minds begin.
Well, Okay, first of all, Donald Trump did not get nearly enough flack. This was in the news for, I think, 3 days. What happened in Yemen? What's happening in Yemen? The U.S. financed this war. It's financing this war. The Saudis are just absolutely freaking brutal. It's really one of the worst humanitarian crises when it comes to children that we've ever seen. So he's getting a lot of flack for that. But then we can't have, if he pulls out of Syria, we know the Russians are going to have more power. We know Iran's going to have more power. And so in that region, obviously, we're huge allies with Israel. I am sure Israel would not be happy with this decision, which is interesting that he would go against Israel because, of course, his evangelical base is in love with the idea of the nation of Israel. And with Syria having more power and Iran having more power and Russia having more power in that region, theoretically that would weaken Israel's ability to really be the police of the Middle East, which is what they are now. They're the most powerful military by far.
Yeah.
It's basically our military. Plus a dome. They're pretty badass when it comes to that. So the question is, do you have a problem with Iran and Syria taking care of their own business? That's really it. And this is part of Donald Trump's foreign policy. This is the Venn diagram where you did have some Bernie crossover. Not really Hillary. Hillary was always a little bit more hawkish. I don't want to mention anymore 2016. But this is something that he was talking about. Mm-hmm. So this is one of those where, again, the fact it was flippantly put out on Twitter without talking or consulting any of the generals. Like, the military was like, what was that on Twitter that you just said, bro? So that was extremely stupid. But the idea of it, I'm not necessarily against.
I'm not sure. I really don't.
What happens if Russia has all the power over there? What happens? So all of a sudden, Iran and Syria, and Russia has the power. So then they're going to get some money. They'll get some great deals. I'm sure. Whatever, because it's going to be a pretty good there's going to be a lot of cash flowing once they start rebuilding.
I mean,
that is for damn sure.
I mean, it's begs the question: is are we comfortable with Russia having more influence in yet another part of the world, with Russian influence growing, and Russian? The Russians. It is not a secret that they are looking to expand, that the current Russian administration, Vladimir Putin, is pretty nostalgic for the USSR. And a lot of people in Russia, according to a recent poll that I saw, a lot of people in Russia are very nostalgic for the USSR.
Absolutely. A lot of them are.
Very much, they say that they regret the breaking up of the USSR. There's a great book that I'm reading right now, I think I might have mentioned it before, called Dancing Bear, that's about, it draws a parallel between Russian dancing bears that were a form of entertainment, that were Russian dancing bears that were treated terribly, and pretty much treated cruelly, but the owners always said that they were a part of the family, and so that these bears are treated wonderfully, but you're not supposed to make a bear dance, and you're not supposed to feed a bear candy. But
you can't feed bear candy?
You can. It's just bad for the bear.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
apparently the light Hasbro gummy bears, I think they're laxatives.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
The diet ones. Yeah. I heard that about 4 or 5 years ago.
Huh.
Yeah.
Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Roofstock. What if there was an investing platform that allowed you to collect passive income and generate average analyzed returns of 8% in markets across the U.S., not just the ones in your backyard? With Roofstock.com, you can buy, sell, and own investment properties the way pro investors do and start earning passive income right away. Everyone knows real estate is a great way to build personal wealth and diversify your investment portfolio, but it can be complicated. With Roofstock, you can invest in single-family homes across the country with as little as $20,000 down. Roofstock has made the whole process transparent and easy to engage. View inspection reports, take a 3D tour, see neighborhood ratings, and when you find a property you like, add it to your cart. It's as easy as buying a pair of shoes online. Roofstock offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, and if your vacant rental property doesn't have a tenant after 45 days of closing, Roofstock will pay your projected rental income for up to a year. This month only, they've got a special deal for our listeners. You'll get a $500 credit towards your Roofstock Marketplace fee at roofstock.com/top-hat. That's ROOFSTOCK.com/top-hat for a $500 credit. But it's only this month. Roofstock.com/top-hat.
What the book does is that it draws a parallel between the Russian dancing bears and the Russian people. Nostalgic for times when they didn't have to worry about anything.
Right.
When there was less freedom. When, because freedom is, it's a great thing, but it's also a burden.
You got to work a little bit more.
You got to work you got to work a little bit more, and you also have to make a lot more decisions for yourself that, you don't necessarily have to make under, like, say, a USSR.
They just had to decide what color you go to get. It was either gray or tan. Maybe tan. It's sad.
Yeah, but I mean, it's what this does is that it gives Russia more power. It does. It gives Russia more power on the world stage.
It does,
and that's not. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think giving Russia more power is a positive thing.
And of course, that plays right in with Putin's plan, kind of get the Baltic nations back, reform the USSR in some way. It'll obviously never be the exact way that it was, but that is his dream. So that is a good point. Maybe this let him fill that power vacuum, and maybe in 25 years, maybe even less than that, now we're at war with a more powerful Russia.
Yes.
That's possible.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to weigh here. President Trump, so this is the official thing here. He ordered the rapid withdrawal of 2,000 United States troops within 30 days. So this is going to be happening fairly quickly if this goes through. Again, this was the tweet. I hate that I'm saying this. We have defeated ISIS in Syria. My only reason for being there during the Trump presidency. He offered no details on his plan for the military mission, nor a larger strategy in Syria. And I think those last two issues are why people are wondering if this is a good idea or not. But again, those are the things that we should debate, and hopefully we can get more information about what the actual strategy is, so then we can have a little bit more meat to chew on here. Because right now, as on its face, I'm not against it, but as long as it's done in a way that is strategic and intelligent, if that's possible, because it doesn't seem like the military wants to go along with it.
Is this some sort of like bizarro wag the dog situation where the president, in order to distract from domestic troubles, pulls out of war instead of going to war?
Maybe because he's reverse Nixon it. It's a reverse Vietnam, which is better than Vietnam.
Or remember when Bill Clinton bombed that lipstick factory to try to distract from the Monica Lewinsky scandal?
Interesting.
This presidential pastime has it has
no
some
one's
recent
worse than
history.
Nixon, though. No one's worse than Nixon.
Nixon is a fucking demon forever for what he did.
Jeez, can't believe it.
Yeah, for subverting the peace process in Vietnam and prolonging the war for further 4 years, 5 years,
dude. Hundreds of thousands more people
killed.
Political ambition.
Yep, for his political ambition. Yeah, but anyway, is he possibly doing this as some sort of distraction? Because the Mueller probe is marching on.
Well,
and
we can talk about that.
More people are going down. Roger Stone is inching closer to a jail cell every single day.
All right. So what? Some new developments. So anyway, that's the conversation on Syria. DM me your thoughts and. That's one of those. That's a tough one up for debate, but it's war and peace, so it should be. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and
that's the whole point.
I've also got, I've got a feeling that there are so many nuances to this situation that we aren't taking into account.
No, we have to. We have to.
Yeah, and so many small things. This is like when you're dealing with the Middle East and you're dealing with this region at this point in time. Like this seems like a butterfly effect. Type of a situation where I think very small things can turn into very big consequences, and us just kind of ripping ourselves out of there real fast could lead to a lot of unintended disasters down the road.
There's always that, and Putin and Assad, specifically Putin and Assad, they're very close. They are close buddies.
Yeah,
and they are deeply tied together allies. Of course, they're both going to be in power for a long time unless a coup occurs.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a plan, I'm sure, and they would like to see that plan acted out in Syria, and it would give a lot more power to Putin. But then again, do we want to risk 2,000 American lives for something that isn't really in our interest anyway?
Yeah,
do we need it?
Is it? I don't know. It's very complicated.
You know what, ladies and gentlemen? Bring it up at Christmas. Bring it up at the Christmas table. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Mueller investigation. So, General Michael Flynn, we initially thought he wasn't going to get any jail time whatsoever. And now he went in front of this judge. His name is Emmett, I believe. And the judge told Michael Flynn, basically, get the hell out of my courtroom or I'm going to sentence you to real jail time. Now, he's not looking at that much jail time, 0 to 6 months, so he will never be serving, it won't be extensive no matter what. And most likely, if it is any, it'll be a month or something. But the judge was real hard on Michael Flynn, says that he, is a total, he turned on the country, he's a traitor to the nation, he pointed at the flag. It was a pretty good theatrical performance from this guy sitting there behind the bench, of course, the judge. So Michael Flynn, he's not out of hot water yet. He might end up actually serving time. We also have the situation happening with the Southern District of New York and just the state of New York in general, totally away from the Mueller investigation. That involves the Trump Foundation, which evidently Donald Trump kind of used for his own purposes. I know that's such a shock.
Yeah.
Such a shock.
Yeah.
So they had to straight up dismantle it. They stopped, which is just so ironic, of course. The Clinton Foundation is fraudulent. There's a lot of fraud in a lot of these so-called charities. There's a great documentary, Poverty Inc., if you want some insight on that. But the irony, of course, is as Donald Trump was talking about the Clinton Foundation and how corrupt it is, and how and now every single thing, it's like it's like he was talking to a mirror. Mm-hmm. And so now they've dismantled the Trump Foundation. Donald Trump swears it was a wonderful charitable foundation. I have no frickin' clue what they ever gave to anyone.
Didn't he give himself like a signed Packers? No, it was a Tim Tebow helmet. Wasn't
he
it?
won his own raffle?
Yeah, I think
good.
he did. I think there was a signed Tim Tebow, a signed Tim Tebow that the Trump Foundation bought and displayed.
Oh, that's hilarious. So, of course, that is completely separate to the Mueller investigation. So even if he skates on Mueller.
And it has been declared that the Trump Foundation must sell off the autographed Tim Tebow helmet.
Oh, man. Wow.
Donald Trump bought it at a charity auction in 2012 for $12,000.
So he bought, hold on a sec. So it was his foundation. What?
He used foundation money
to buy
pay
it from the foundation.
To buy it, not from that foundation, from a different foundation.
For himself.
For himself,
Ah,
yes.
great.
And they also have to sell 2 paintings of Donald Trump that Trump paid for. It cost him about $30,000 to commission these 2 paintings, paid for by his foundation.
Great. Brilliant.
So, so it's now Barbara Underwood, the state attorney general here. She said that the foundation signed a stipulation agreeing to distribute the remaining charitable assets of the foundation, quote unquote, to reputable organizations approved by her office. And that includes the Tim Tebow helmet and the 2 $15,000 each self-portraits that Donald Trump commissioned.
You can't even, just such a spoiled piece of humanity there. Yeah. Interesting. So the Trump administration is no more. Now this could cause legal troubles for his children, Ivanka and Donald Trump Jr. Of course, they were sort of in charge of the Trump Foundation in many of its aspects. Southern District of New York, or the state of New York, is looking into this, and it is possible, totally, again, outside of the Mueller investigation, that they come down on Ivanka and Donald Trump Jr. for fraud, for running a fraudulent charitable foundation.
Oh, yes.
So he's got about 6 different cases coming at him now.
Yeah.
About 6 different huge scandals that carry significant time aimed at the Trump family.
Yeah.
And so something's going to stick.
Every organization that he has ever run and been a part of is now under investigation by either the state or federal government.
Really, I mean, it's crazy. And if you get Ivanka and Donald Trump Jr., that's the thing with this guy. I was just talking with Page 7's Molly Neffel. I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump doesn't see a jail cell ever. But I could see, as it has been for his entire life, everything he touches dies, and I could see his kids getting some significant time.
Yeah.
God knows what they're going to find as they continue to unravel the web that is the Trump Foundation finances, which would be fascinating to see. Mm-hmm. So that's totally outside of the Mueller probe. Now, within the Mueller probe, we have him sort of scratching down the door of a fella, as Marcus referenced. This dude, we got Jerome Corsi, and then, of course, we have Roger Stone. Now, Jerome Corsi is one of Roger Stone's lackeys, I suppose, I guess he was kind of a lackey of Roger Stone. Roger Stone was certainly, he's the top of the cool guy pyramid.
Cool guy?
No, these guys think they're really cool.
Yeah.
These radio guys?
I've seen Roger Stone's steampunk get up.
Yeah,
he thinks he's really cool.
Oh, he thinks he's extremely cool. But Jerome Corsi also, I watch Glenn Beck radio on TV sometimes.
Yeah.
Glenn. It's called Glenn. And he's got Pat Glenn! He's got Pat and Stu on there. And they're like 45, 50-year-old dudes. They think they are like super freaking awesome.
Yeah.
They're like, the ego of a radio dude? Mm-hmm. Like the classic ego radio guy?
Yeah.
Such douchebags. But that's Jerome. So Jerome Corsi, he has said that he is going to be indicted any day now. Now, evidently, maybe his lawyers know something that we don't know. Who knows? I'm sure they do know something we don't know, but perhaps they know he's going to be indicted. And if they get Corsi, Roger Stone is right there. And, of course, that would be a pretty big fish for Mueller to net. So we'll see what happens. If you're Stone, obviously he's already said he's going to plead the 5th. Who knows? What they'll be charging him with. I don't think that he's going to be lying to the FBI because I don't believe he's speaking to the FBI. Mm-hmm. But that could be the next two big guys to watch out for when it comes to indictments.
Could be.
There's also Judge Napolitano on Fox News was talking about how it's possible, because of course the statute of limitations when it comes to Donald Trump, they would be gone in 2021. Right, it's a 5-year statute of limitations when it comes to the violations, specifically campaign finance violations. So it's possible, and many people say it's not likely, but it is possible that they have already indicted Donald Trump, put it under sealed indictment, which is it's a little bizarre, right? They can just kind of have a sealed indictment and be like, so now it doesn't age. Like what? Like it's a little straight. It's kind of a way out of that whole statute of limitations thing.
Yeah, it's a loophole for a statute of limitations, but it's also kind of made for these exact kinds of situations where guys can just kind of hide. And, because otherwise you could have someone just leave town for a little while, and not leave town, but leave the country.
Sure.
Wait until the statute of limitations runs out, and then you come on back.
Absolutely.
So sealed indictments, they happen. They obviously serve their purpose.
Absolutely. So that's where Mueller is. A lot of people are like, he's got to be wrapping up soon, and I have no frickin' idea. This thing could just drag on, because if he gets stoned, they got a trial. That's a year long, 8 months, something like that.
A lot. And if you get stoned, maybe you get Sam Nunberg. I don't know.
Nunberg, he's all over TV now.
Yeah.
I think Nunberg he's fully cooperated. He is.
Nunberg.
He's the most lovable character that's ever been on TV.
Yeah, Nunberg is definitely. Yeah, I checked his Twitter, and the last tweet they did was 2 days ago. It was just a retweeted picture of Daniel Bryan.
Hey, all right.
Yeah, so Nunberg's a big wrestling fan.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Of course he likes Daniel Bryan. Now it's the no movement. It was the yes movement, and now it's the no movement. He's bad. His character is called the new Daniel Bryan. They didn't even try.
Yeah.
He's just the new Daniel Bryan. He's mean now.
Yeah.
I don't really like him.
No.
I'm just going to say he's a little boring. Also, just lastly, Mick Mulvaney is the new temporary chief of staff. Nobody wanted that job. Mick Mulvaney takes it. He took it. And General John Kelly is now out. So, and Mulvaney said, my strategy is to just let Trump be Trump. And it's like, that's a strategy, great strategy, because you have no other option.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's either you do that or you're fired.
I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who, or I do have a lot of sympathy for people, but for General John Kelly, but I know his frustration level must just be astronomical.
Yeah.
Must be like, just a kindergarten teacher, on their first day, they don't want to be there.
Nope.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you all so much for listening this year. This is the last one of the year.
It is.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
gracious.
We'll be back in first week of January.
Well, we'll have a lot to talk about. Cannot wait for the campaigns. They're going to be real exciting. And again, Democrats, don't participate in the politics of personal destruction. Stick with policies. There's a lot of robust debate to be had about those. No need to destroy people, so when we get to a general, it's just a bunch of two pigs in shit, because we know which one will win that contest. All right, everyone. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Hail yourselves. Talk to you soon.